Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. It's Monday, it's September 25th. This will be our chart listing for the day, and we finally got some movement today. It started out like it was going to be another really slow day, and then suddenly we got a big sell-off. And then we really just kind of went sideways. There's a little bit of an upward bias to this right here, but this is, we're below, above, below, above, below, above the EMA, and when you're below and above back and forth like that, you can trade this both ways, and really all your trades were to the downside for the most part. Not many options to get long here, really. So anyway, we did get some movement finally. Somebody asked me about dropping the tick size down, and even if the problem right here is there's not enough room between the lows and the highs to really scalp out. So even if you made your tick chart a little smaller, and you still don't have room to get out. So it doesn't really help you as much. And I just think you're better off not to try to do that, because as you get your chart smaller and smaller, you start to have more failed entries and so forth. So I'm just not at the point where I'm ready to change the size of our tick chart to make it smaller. Now, when it gets really volatile, sometimes it helps to make it bigger. Uh, but you're fighting a different battle, and on the opposite end there, when you don't have much movement, that's when it's hard to do anything different, because if you don't have any movement, it's hard to get a trade to move enough to make any money. And this is a good example right in here. Even if you had went to a smaller tick chart, you still don't have room to really profit from high to low in there, so it just doesn't really help you. And so I don't think we want to do that at this point. So anyway, I understand why you feel like you should try it, but it's been my experience that when you go to, this is a sweet spot, and more times than not, this is the level you're going to want to be at, 2,000 ticks. And you could probably drop it down just a little, but if you dropped it down 300 to 500 ticks, I don't think it really changes the chart that much. So again, it still doesn't really help you. So I hope that's clear. But anyway, I'm going to back out. We'll talk about the trades, and we'll go from there. But first trade I saw was there's a short here. I went back and forth about whether this one should be green or red. Really, the way I was looking at it, I had this big channel down here. We had a couple of closes outside a new low, and then we had that failed entry. But that was before, that was before I came in. We were already working up when we came in. And I was looking at this channel going up, so we hadn't had a break of it yet, and notice how we're bouncing off of it every time. And so I wasn't really playing it like this was. There's not enough bars there to consider that a little bit of a trend right there. So this looked like an uptrend, and it's really dangerous to go short right into that, even though it looks like it went higher first, then turned. It didn't quite close on this low, but we're above the EMA. There are two legs up, so there's reasons to think about it each way, but I think it's too dangerous to go short right there. It's a good chance we may make another leg down, though, at the same time. Um, so that's in the end, I just settled on it being green, because I couldn't really come to enough conclusions to make it to not take the trade, or to say, hey, I definitely want to take this trade. So to me, that leaves it as a green entry, and that's where I'm going to leave it. And I just think it's a little risky to enter short right there, and you don't want to be entering long there. I would have considered long here based on the time frame, but it's still below the EMA, and this has been a pretty big sell-off. So you just again, but that's before I got in here. So, but this turns out to be a nice trade, but you don't know that ahead of time, and you get another second entry short right here, but you don't have a very good signal bar, and it fails real quickly. So I like going long there, uh, especially that looks like a failed break lower. Notice that we're working down. We get the close outside a new low, and then um, what people were probably looking at, did we really have a convincing test of that low? So they come back and test it one more time. Then you make that higher low. So you're probably going to get another leg up. Um, I did make this one green. It went lower first and turned and went out the other side. Um, but that's a really big bar, and so there's a lot of ticks in there to get your stop below. So you probably wanted to let this break higher, then maybe drop a limit order if you were going to enter this. I'd really like to see a reversal type pattern, another higher low. And so notice you got a low, a high, a higher low, a higher high, now another higher low. And so I liked going long there, and it was starting to look like a range, but you really didn't have enough yet to say, hey, we're definitely going sideways. Once it turned down there a couple more times, it was pretty obvious. So I liked this one to the long side. Once we couldn't go longer any, we couldn't go up or down and continue to turn down off that, then I didn't like, that's a really nice signal bar, but it's right into the eyes. You don't want to risk that. And that just kind of takes off. And then, but this is, you can treat this like a failed breakout. And so when you got this little small bar that's mostly bearish here, it's not a long way away from the EMA, but considering how flat that is, that's a pretty good distance away from the EMA. And you're probably going to at least come back and test this, and you may come back and test this. In this case, we just kept on going. So then you're going to look for another leg down. And we even blew that out of the water. This was kind of an interesting day. And you can see right there, we bounced a little bit there, but it just continued lower. So, but at this point, this is what you're looking for. You're either looking for this to hold and be a range day, or we may come back and on about a 50% to 60% correction and then start another leg down. And believe it or not, today we finally got another leg down. Lately we hadn't been getting that. We just kind of bounce and go sideways or whatever. But today we finally got that next leg down. And it was a nice one. So I don't know what's wrong. Suddenly I'm having a little bit of trouble with my throat here, but not a lot of trades today. So I'm going to work on through this. And but yeah, I don't know what happened to my throat all of a sudden. But anyway, I traded this like a failed break lower, nice little short here, and just ride this and get as much as you can out of it. This would be my first target. If we went on through there, this would be my next. And notice it kind of pushed through that and gave you a little breakout pullback. That's a nice bearish bar, but you got to go short at the very low, and you are looking for a measured move, which is way down here. So if this one would have broke higher too and then turned down, I might have considered it there. But at this point, I'm not going to risk that. I'm going to wait and see if we get our trap, our failed second entry long, which comes here. And but we weren't back over to the trend line yet, and we're really away from the EMA. But when it tries to go higher again there, right off that trend line, that confirms your trend line, which really your trend line was already confirmed by all those touches and then those two more touches there. But officially, this was the next correction that tested it. So, and notice how we tried it twice. So I felt a lot more comfortable about going short there, just for a scalp if nothing else. But again, it takes off, and you can ride it on down. I'm not going to take this short, and I'm definitely not going to take this one. We haven't even got to the low yet. We've already had a break and a new low. A lot of times you'll get a new leg down. That's fairly bearish, but you just don't have much room there, so I'm not going to risk it. Let's see if we get it. Plus, we're way overdone for a measured move, so I think you just have to watch those. This one is really tempting to come back to the EMA. But really, you probably should wait on a higher low, which comes here, and then you just get a neutral bar. So now you really got to wait on your reversal, which comes right here. So I like that one for sure. Really thought he'd probably take on off there. Doesn't, but you could probably argue for that one to be green. But on that big of a sell-off, I think it's really risky. So I'm not even going to give it a green. I think you got to wait on this trade here. And notice what happens. You did get a close on this one here. You went to a new high, and then it looked like you were going to get another move up, and it goes higher and traps everybody and turns back down. It looks a lot like this setup, and there was another one over here somewhere. It looked like that. So it's kind of a repeat, and look how bearish that. So I like going short there. And this time I'm hoping, hey, maybe we'll get another measured leg like this one, or maybe one like that. A lot of times when you get 3 legs, the middle leg may be different, and the first leg and then the last leg are more equal. I didn't measure these, but I can just look at them and tell this next one's not quite as big, but let's just see. Yeah, see, we're not nearly as close to measured move there. We missed it by a couple, well, a point or so anyway. A couple of points it looks like. But you got this trend working down. You get a break outside. You try. The reason I like going short here is that you draw that line across there. You drag it down. That may be your target. This low may be your other target. But this is a double top, so that's like a failed second entry long. It's a double test of that EMA. It is a little sideways, but that's fairly bearish. So I felt like that was worth risking for a second leg down. And if you measure this first leg, I'd measure from there first. And you measure down. That's a perfect measured move. And so now you got your 2 legs down. It bounces. If you drew that line and drug it down, it bounces right there. But you don't get a very good setup. And then you get your, you push right through the EMA and pull back. And again, you don't get a very good setup. This is really your signal bar, this real bearish bar. So again, I'm going to wait on your failed second entry short, which really comes right here, and you get a nice bullish bar, but you don't have a whole lot of room back up to this trend line, if that's indeed in play. And at this point, it's looking like this is definitely valid. So it actually went lower and turned and went right out the other side. So, but what I would have done when it broke higher is just dropped a limit order just to get a little better entry, to have plenty of room before here. Otherwise, you don't have room. And if you can get in here and have room to get out before this trend line or this trend channel line, then I'm okay with it. Otherwise, you have to skip that one. And we came off there. You get a little lower high here, so you're expecting prices to push lower back down to the low side. There's a trend line here, but you don't really need it at this point. It's just your first lower high. And you can see how this fits pretty nicely. And you actually get a little overshoot here, not by much, but and it reverses. So I like that one, and you definitely don't want to go long here. By the time you get a reversal, you're over into the 3 o'clock hour, but there's a nice reversal right there. And if you'd taken that, you could have ridden this all the way up into the close. And notice how by the end of the day, we closed at 24.98, and we basically closed maybe down a couple of points from Friday. After all that movement, it ends up being a neutral day almost. And I mean, that's just been the story lately. I just think this market, nobody really wants to sell it, but nobody wants to buy it at this price. So we're just like at an equilibrium point. And at some point, something will break and something will change, and this thing will probably go nuts, and it'll be some great trading again. But right now, I mean, it's not too bad if you can get this kind of movement every day and still end up unchanged. But what's bad is when you get a day like this almost every day, just kind of like we did Friday. I mean, there's just no movement in there. You got a little bit during the overnight, but by 7 o'clock, nothing really happened. I mean, it's hard to trade that because there's not much going on there. And you could see the day before that, we had a little movement, but not much going on. And so I just think this market is at equilibrium right now, and there's just not a lot of people willing to buy it at this price. But at the same time, nobody wants to sell either, so we're just kind of stuck where we're at until something changes and someone either perceives the market to be undervalued again, or somebody perceives it to be overvalued, and and decides we got to start getting out before it's too late. And so when you're stuck in these ranges, it makes day trading a little harder. So but anyway, that's pretty much it for today. Not a whole lot going Anyway, it was a better day than what we have had in the last few days, so hopefully um, you had a chance to make a little money today. But anyway, we'll be back again to do it tomorrow. I'm going to wrap it up for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.